I'm Megan Buell, and welcome to another edition of our safety segment. Today we are talking about something pretty important here with the state of Tennessee, and I've got two great people with me to explain this program, the Ignition Interlock program. That's what we're going to be speaking about today. And I have with me Sergeant Terry C. He is the supervisor over the Ignition Interlock program here for our state. And then I have Randy Davis, who is the Assistant Director of Financial Responsibility. So thank you both for being here. This is a very, very important law here in our state and saves many lives. So tell me a little bit about this law.
We're going to talk about the Ignition Interlock Compliance Law. It was created July 1st, or went into effect July 1st, 2016.
Okay.
And with this compliance law, it requires a participant on the program to have the interlock for 365 consecutive days with no breaks in those days. It has to be consecutive. And also, most of our calls come from customers are asking about, they're not getting explained in court about the last 120 days of that. And I'll talk a little bit about the violation you can't have in those last 120 days, or you will be extended on the program for 120 days. And that is, you can't circumvent or tamper with the ignition interlock device. You cannot skip or miss a rolling retest, and that test is randomly the device, after you get your vehicle started, it will ask for a random test while you're driving. You cannot skip that test or not take it. And also during that 120-day period, you cannot miss your calibration or service date, or you will be extended on the program. Also, on your initial start of the vehicle, the set point for our ignition interlock in the state of Tennessee is a .020, and it will not let your car start, but that would also be a violation.
Okay, and so you mentioned something pretty important. So this law then says that you have to have this device in your car for 365 days consecutively.
Correct.
But within that law, during those 365 days, the last 120 days, there's particular guidelines that must be followed in order to complete the program.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
That's very important.
And that's 120 days from day of violation.
Got it. Okay.
I think there's confusion out there that you just got to have it for 365 days. And people are not realizing, they need to understand that
there's more to that.
That's correct. During that period, especially the 120 days of the 365, the last 120 days, there can't be any violations, or you will be extended on the program.
Okay. And let me ask you this. So I know that there's a lot of players that are involved with this program. You know, not only our department, the Tennessee Highway Patrol, who administers this program statewide, but of course you have your judges, you have your probation officers, you have your manufacturers. So there's a lot of partners that are involved in making sure that this program, of course, operates efficiently and of course, effectively. Can you tell me a little bit about the partnerships that are out there?
Yes, I think first it starts out with our manufacturers or companies, because they're the ones who is going to provide most of the customer service to the citizens of Tennessee, and that's what's important to us. We want the customer to get, you know, even though they have the interlock, we want them to be satisfied with that period and not be discouraged, because the interlock is put in place not for punishment, it's there for deterrent and protect other drivers on the roadway from intoxicated drivers.
There you go.
So it's, most calls I get, I tell people it's not there to punish you, it's there to protect yourself and the other drivers on the roadway.
Absolutely.
So we work closely with our manufacturers or companies, and also with our installers. Right now we have approximately 150 installers across the state.
Wow.
Almost one in every county that can do the installation of the ignition interlock device, and also every 30 days it's required that you come in and get the device serviced. So those facilities, we also do inspections of those facilities, ensure that they're meeting our policies and procedures, our current legislation, and ensure that they are abiding by the rules of the program to give the best customer service to a person who has the interlock.
And let me ask you this. So your manufacturers would deal directly with those installers, correct?
The manufacturers are the ones who find the locations, and the installers work under those manufacturers.
Got it, got it. So then there's the judges, right? These are the judges who, of course, bring the sentence.
That's correct.
That's right.
We do multiple conferences with judges.
Okay.
Usually averages around 6 or 7 a year. Also, we do in-service training with city and county departments. Also, we do DA conferences.
Okay.
And also conferences with
Sure.
Mainly anyone who calls us. Law enforcement,
anybody.
correct.
Yeah,
yes,
sure.
we will try our hardest to get there. We're busy, but we
Right.
usually
You're a small shop with a big job.
correct. Usually, one of us in our program will come out and do a conference. Just give us a call. We'll try our best to get out and do conferences.
And you named one other partner, which I want to touch on, and then we're going to go to Randy here. So you talked about the probation officers, right?
Yes.
And so they're, of course, working with their clients,
correct.
yes, to make sure that they're keeping on task. And
That's correct.
Right.
Yes. Normally, if somebody has, not always, but most of the time, if somebody has the conviction for driving under the influence in the interlock, they're on probation, may not for the entire period, but at least 6 or 7 months. And probation officers will call us, and they usually ask how can they get records or data from monthly reports about their client and the use of the ignition interlock device. And also, if anything happens, we usually require that our installation facilities get that probation officer's name
that's good.
and number,
Sure.
and we can give them a call and give them updates if they want it.
Sure, that's great. Well, good deal. Well, Randy, thank you for being here. And so you're the financial side of all of this, and so tell me a little bit about what happens when an individual now is trying to get their license back. Maybe their license has been revoked during this program, or what they have to do in order for their financial responsibility to be met.
Well, this compliance-based program goes hand in hand with a driver license.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Whether it's a restricted driver license during the revocation period, or it's a reissued driver license after the driver has met the reinstatement requirements at the end of the revocation period. So there's a process there. Once someone is convicted of an offense which requires the ignition interlock, they will be, if they're given a court order for a restricted license, got to present that court order at a driver service center and apply for that restricted license during the revocation period. If a driver opts to wait out the revocation period, at that time, when the revocation is over, and one of the reinstatement requirements in order to obtain a license would be to have ignition interlock installed, and then the ignition interlock, the 365-day ignition interlock requirement would start at that time when the driver license is reissued.
Okay, so this is really the responsibility of that customer, the driver. And they can decide if, like you said, they want to continue through the revocation period, or if they're going to go ahead and get the device installed. So that all kind of depends on then where you come into play.
Correct. And if the device is installed, it should go along with a driver license.
Right.
And if the earlier they start after that conviction, after that requirement begins, the earlier the requirement can end. So if they've been granted a court order from the court, go ahead, come in and apply for that restricted license now, get that 365-day clock started now.
And let me ask you this, that restricted license, so they won't be able to drive until they get the restricted license?
The court order, once someone's granted a court order, if their driver license was valid at the time of the conviction for this violation, the court order itself can be used as a driver license for 10 days.
Okay, got it.
So that they can go get interlock installed, get the SR22 financial responsibility insurance that's also required. Gives the driver time to gather up all the things that they need in order to come apply for the restricted license in person.
Great, great. So we really make this pretty easy when it comes down to it, to make sure that we are working with that person to get them what they need. With the ignition interlock program, with the financial responsibility piece, and then of course making sure that person then follows through with that order.
Correct.
Absolutely.
I believe the interlock is put in place to allow that person who gets a driving on the influence conviction to still be able to drive and not put a, where they can't drive ever in the state. So this gives them the opportunity to drive, and they're just going to be required to have the ignition interlock.
And let me ask you this: so, is this is the first DUI conviction?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
the device is installed on the first DUI conviction.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. What about a second DUI conviction?
It would still be installed, and it would be required on, if it's DUI second, they would have to have it 24 months.
Yes, the length of the requirement corresponds to the length of the driver license revocation.
Okay.
If it's a DUI second offense, which is a 2-year revocation, the requirement is 2 years.
Okay.
Now, depending on when the device is installed and when the person applies for a restricted license, the revocation period and the interlock may not sync up. So
Okay.
it doesn't end at the end of the revocation if the required time for the interlock has not finished yet.
Okay, great. Well, this has been really helpful, and I know that our viewers, this makes a lot of sense. There's a lot that goes into this program, and I know that we're going to continue to do some things with you all as far as messaging goes to get some good information out there about the steps, about the process, so that we can make it really useful for a lot of people.
Yes, we plan on getting together and do a more detailed step-by-step what's required once you get from court all the way to the end of your 365 day.
There you go. Good deal. And these will be our two actors right here. Perfect. All right. Thank you all very much. Appreciate you. Thank you for joining us for our safety segment. We'll see you next time.